Hello guys, welcome back or welcome if you're new. Today is a really exciting day. We are going to be doing the mid-year tag, the mid-year book check-in. If you guys remember, I did do a Q1 check-in and I didn't do that great, but I did do one. And here we are again. And instead of doing a full Q2 check-in, I think I'm just gonna do a mid-year book tag. I wasn't going to do it. I saw it all over YouTube and I got a little bit of FOMO, so here we are. There's a lot of questions on here. I have my bullet journal and I'm ready to just chat books with you. The first question is, what was your book goal for 2025? If you guys don't remember, I always do the same book goal because I find it very attainable and I don't really like to pressure myself to read more or less. This is something that I have been able to achieve for 5 or 6 years of reading without any issues, and there had been some months where I struggled to reach the 85 books, and there you go, I said it. My year goal is 85 books. I feel like if I'm in a book slump for too many months, it pushes me enough to read more, but I also feel no pressure to read more than that. I feel like that is a huge amount of books to read in a year, and I feel very lucky that the last few years I haven't had trouble hitting it. Now, the follow-up question is, how many books have I read so far? As of today, and today is July 1st, let's go into my Fable really fast and share with you what my books of the year are. As of now, I have read 63 books. So I am super close to reaching my goal, and that's pretty exciting for me. I didn't expect to read so much. I've had a few good series, a few good highly rated books, and it's helped me a lot in terms of making it easy to just read my goal and just read for fun. What is your genre breakdown? So looking at my genre breakdown according to Fable, there's no surprise to anyone if you watch any of my monthly wrap-ups, but romance is my biggest genre of the year. I've read 35 romance books. My follow-up is YA and fantasy. I've read 11 fantasy books, 11 YA, followed by 9 thrillers and 5 literary fiction. I don't really know how to figure out my shortest and longest book. Fable doesn't really track that very well, so as of now, I do not know the answer to that. What is my star breakdown is the next question. We skipped what is my longest book. I actually don't know the answer to that. My review breakdown is pretty good. I think I have been doing a good job at rating or choosing books that I think I'm going to like, with the exception of book club books. I think actually those have been the lowest rated books that I've read. I've read When Freedom McFadden or 2 that I just did not like, and then I read, what is the name of it? It's Murder Your Employer by Rupert something, and that was another really low rated book, but my average is pretty high overall. I have a 3.9 star rating. It looks like my highest category is 3.5 stars, followed by 4 stars, 4.25. So I'm not too mad at it. What is a book you enjoyed with mixed reviews? This is hard because I do feel like I don't always look at the reviews at what's going to be popular for the year and what's not. But I will say the most recent book that I've read that I went into it actually with lower expectations and ended up enjoying it way more than I thought I would was Abby Jimenez's new book, Say You'll Remember Me. The reviews, though, I will say a lot of people who've read those books have they don't really like having too many pop references in the book. And while she did have a lot of ACOTAR references that I've caught, it didn't bother me because this is a contemporary romance, and I feel like in contemporary romance it is okay and it makes sense for some of the characters to be obsessed with normal pop culture, and so it didn't bother me. It didn't take away from the story. It wasn't my favorite of her books. I personally related to some of it a lot, but at the end of the day, I did not dislike it at all. If you see me doing anything, I didn't want to miss any questions, so I've been highlighting them as I answer them, so sorry about that one. The best book I read in 2025. Now that's a really difficult question. This is why I always tend to stay away from these types of tags, because I do feel like I am not very good at keeping track of books that I've really enjoyed and like choosing a favorite from those books that I've really enjoyed. Let's go through a few of them and let's just chat about it. I do think The Wedding People might be one of my favorite books of the year, which is crazy because I read it at the very beginning. If we're going through the months, I would say my favorite books are The Wedding People, Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams, Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Please do not get mad at me if I butchered those. The One Dark Window or The Two Twisted Crowns. The Two Twisted Crowns duology is so good to me. I really enjoyed that one. I enjoyed First Time Caller. I enjoyed The Favorites by Lade Fargo. Let's see. I loved Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. I loved the Crimson Moth duology, and I loved Fun for the Whole Family. So there's a whole bunch of books that I really, really enjoyed. If I were to sit down and want to do maybe a reread of something immediately, it would definitely be between The Wedding People, the Two Twisted Crowns duology, and Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. I think those were my favorite reads of the year. A mix of being pleasantly surprised, a mix of it being very quotable and very bingeable to read, and also the improvement. Like, again, when I think of Red Rising, I was like, it was good, I enjoyed it, fun. I read Golden Sun and I was shocked. I read through it so quickly. I enjoyed all of it. The characters are just so fun, and it was so many plot twists and turns, and I like politically motivated series. For me, that's a big thing. If it has that, I enjoy the scheming. I enjoy the manipulation. I enjoy trying to get the upper hand against your opponent. Those are elements that I know some people do not like, but I am a big fan of. And Golden Sun definitely was up there. So for sure, I would put, I guess, those three in their own category. And then in terms of romance, I would probably put The Crimson Moth as a really good romantasy that I enjoyed. And Beg, Borrow, Steal, of course, by Sarah Adams. For sure, romance is between First Time, Caller, and Beg, Borrow, Steal for romance. For romantasy-esque, I would do the Crimson Moth duology or Two Twisted Crowns, even though I would say Two Twisted Crowns is a little less romance heavy, in my opinion. And then for sci-fi, Golden Sun. And then for lit, it's The Wedding People, 100%. So that is kind of answering your question. I don't have a single favorite book, but there are a few. Best sequel. Can I choose Golden Sun again? Or Rebel Witch? I think those were the best sequels I've read in a series this year. Golden Sun for sure. I think if I were to choose one, it's Golden Sun. Because Red Rising is good and it was fun, but I think Golden Sun was leaps and bounds better. That it definitely surprised me. I didn't expect the series to just level up to the extent that it did. I would say, I guess, Rebel Witch from the Crimson Moth duology was really good, but I found them both to be equally as good, so I guess Golden Sun would win this one. A new release you haven't read yet but want to. There is a few, and I actually wrote these down because I wasn't going to be sure. I chose one, Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. She is one of my favorite romance writers. She is one of my favorite summer writers as well. She gets me in the mood, and she has these really beautiful quotes and lines and sentences that are so relatable, and she has a really good way of sometimes explaining things that are just so mundane that you feel like, wow, I didn't know someone could feel or write a sentence to explain how I feel so perfectly, and she does that time and time again. So one, Golden Summer. It would be Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like she has a really good talent of writing historical fiction, especially because she'll write a book about a topic that I'm not interested in at all. So for example, she wrote Carrie Soto's Back. And for me, I grew up with family members who really like tennis, so I appreciated it a little bit more maybe than some other people, but I am not a historical fiction lover at all. So when I was like, oh, it's a historical fiction about a tennis player, I was not really that impressed with it. And then I read it and I was shocked. I feel like she's going to do the same thing because this one has to do with space, and space is cool to begin with, so this is going to be very interesting. And the final one is The Night and the Moth, and that is Rachel Gillick's new book. She's the one who wrote the Two Twisted Crowns duology. I haven't seen too many people talk about it, but I also haven't seen any negative reviews, and that in itself already just keeps me excited to read it. The most anticipated release for the second half of the year. The book that I was really excited to read this year, in terms of a release that I haven't read yet but want to, is definitely Sunrise of the Reaping. I am waiting to do a reread. I haven't read these books in over 15 years, and so I definitely want to have it really fresh on my mind so I can understand all the references and maybe even understand the motivations of people more so, especially with Sunrise of the Reaping is a prequel to the original series. I think it makes a lot more sense to have the full context of the original work before going back into a prequel, especially because I also haven't read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, so I do feel like it makes sense for me to reread the original trilogy, go back to the original prequel, and then move up to Haymitch's Game. So that's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. One of the books that I'm really anticipating to read later on this year is Rebecca Ross's new book. So if you don't know, Rebecca Ross wrote the Divine Rivals duology. Oh, sorry. I have a cat who's staying at my house right now. It's my boyfriend's mom's cat, and I have not the worst cat allergies, but the fact that she's been staying here for a couple of days, it just keeps building up. And so I'm very congested and like stuffy and stuff. So if you hear me sniffling or if my voice sounds a little congested, that is what it is, and we're just dealing with it. We're rolling with the punches here. The book is Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. I am Very excited for that. I don't know what it's about. I did not look into it that much, but anything Rebecca Ross reads. After reading Divine Rivals and the sequel, I am so excited for this. The second book that I'm really excited to read is Overdue by Stephanie Perkins. She's written some really cute romances that I've always enjoyed, and I actually got an arc for this one, so I will be reading this ahead of time. So I'm really excited. A book that's coming out this summer, I think it's actually now in July. It is Sangu Banana's next cozy fantasy. She wrote The Secret Society for Regular Witches, and I loved it. And so she had this book. It was supposed to release, I want to say, last year, and the release was pushed back multiple times, and I think it's finally releasing. It is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and I have high hopes for that one. I think it's going to be one of the best books of the year for sure, hands down. I'm very excited for Ali Hazelwood's spin-off to her fantasy series. I forgot what it's called right now, but I loved it. I was not expecting to like it. I don't really enjoy her writing style that much. I do find it a little bit repetitive, which is fine, but I really enjoyed her fantasy series, Bride. So she came out with a spin-off. I think it's in the same universe. It's called Mate, and that comes out this year. And another book that I'm excited for is B.K. Borson's holiday romance. It's called Good Spirits. I did pre-order that one. She has some really beautiful sprayed edge options for that series, and I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like B.K. Borson is one of those really cute, cheesy, like I don't know if she's comedy, but like romance. But they're like kind of cringy and corny, but in the best way. Like if you were a person who grew up secretly loving, not Lifetime and Hallmark movies, but kind of sort of where they're predictable and everything, but you love it and you eat it up. That's what B.K. Borson does to me. Like her writing is not the best thing in the world, but she makes me feel all the things. With the exception of First Time Caller, that one, I genuinely think, yes, it's a little like cutesy and cheesy, but like it's so good. I feel like her books are just like that. I really enjoy them. And so Good Spirits is a ghost, I think, and an antique keeper. And I always wonder how they're going to solve these issues if someone's a ghost. Like, how will this relationship continue? But I'm going to read and find out. And I think I'm going to love it. And I'm going to eat it up because I really have been enjoying her books a lot recently. So that's exciting. If you haven't watched my TBR video, or if it's coming out next week, I don't know. I'm like recording back to back and I don't know when I'm going to release things. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to read Quicksilver for the month of July. At least that is my goal. And her new book, Brimstone, is coming out later this year, and I'm very excited for that because I feel like it's the perfect timing to read Quicksilver while the new one also comes out. Not that much waiting time. Everything's fresh on your mind. So that's another one. And what else? I think that's it. I think. Let's see if there's anything that I'm missing. Fake Skating by Lynn Painter, her latest YA. I eat up her YA. I think she has the best YA rom-coms, at least for an adult to read. They're cute, they're predictable, they're genuinely funny. The characters are just like, you just like kick your toes and it just makes you feel and remember like that young love, and it's so cute. Tiffany G. Jackson's coming out with a new book. She does these really great YA thrillers. If you like Holly Jackson, but you like the final book in Holly Jackson, where it's a little darker, it's a little bit more intricate, it's a little bit creepier, you'll like Tiffany Jackson. She does these really great, really dark, really twisted psychological thrillers. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be a psychological thriller, but I've read 2 or 3 of her thrillers, and they're all really good. They're just good. I don't know. I'm at the edge of my seat all the time trying to figure out where it's going to go, how is it going to end up, and everything. And by the end of it, you're just gasping, shocked. And I read a lot of thrillers, guys, so take my word for it. This one should be on your list. Speaking of Holly Jackson, she's actually also coming out with a book. I think it's in August or September. It is called Not Quite Dead Yet, and I think this is also going to be a great release. Holly Jackson has these really quick, snappy thrillers where they're fun. You're still trying to figure out what happens. I think this is her first adult thriller, which is also going to be really interesting because she tends to do YA or upper YA, you know, like when they're in their teens or like early 20s, the main character, and they're solving whatever they need to solve. I think this is an adult one, and I'm interested to see how she takes that. You know, that can go either way. It could go, I think it's going to be great, honestly, so I'm not that concerned, but I'm very excited to see her try something new. Claire Gilmore came out with Never Over. Claire Gilmore, she is not an indie author, but she gives me indie author vibes. She is super talented. She has released 2 great books. I've spoken about her multiple times on this channel, so don't be surprised. Her 3rd book comes out, I think, in the fall. I want to say November. The cover is beautiful. The plot line looks great. And she's a great writer, where she writes these really perfect, hard-hitting romances with a great subplot that I could always relate to as a woman in her 30s. So high hopes for that one. And I think that's it for my anticipated reads. That list was actually really long. There's always so many good releases coming out every year, and I don't know how to catch up because I have so much I want to read and need to read. The next book on this book tag thing is my biggest surprise, pleasant and unpleasant. So my most unpleasant surprise, maybe people are going to be shocked to hear this. I think it's Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I personally enjoyed the book, and I will say that first and foremost. I think my problem and why I was a little disappointed with the book itself is the fact that I pre-ordered this book. It is probably one of the most anticipated, or it is the anticipated book of my year. It is the book that I wait all year round to read. I get so nervous before reading it, and then I read it and it just hits so hard. This book had a lot of elements that I really enjoyed. I felt like I loved the story. I really enjoyed the romance. I do feel like something was missing, and I said this in my video when I reviewed it. I think I mentioned it when I was doing my vlog while reading it. It was a great book, and I will never say that it was a badly written book because Emily Henry wrote it, and that in itself is great. I think because my base point for her is already so much higher, and I go into it with such high hopes and high anticipation. And even with books like Happy Place, where other people did not like it, I went into it with low expectations and was just blown away by how it became, if not my favorite, one of my favorites, tied with Beach Read for totally different reasons. And so I was like, oh, people didn't like Happy Place, and I ended up loving it. I think even if other people didn't love this, I think I'm gonna really like it. And then I went into it and it was good, but it wasn't great. It's still a 4-star read. Like, it's not a low book. I think because of my personal expectations, though, I was definitely very surprised and a little disappointed. My biggest pleasant surprise, I don't know what the answer to that one would be, so let's go through it and let's see what I read this year that I feel like maybe there's something on there. Pleasant surprise. I think I was really pleasantly surprised by the Crimson Moth series. I think when it was advertised as a romantasy, I think I didn't expect it to be as fantasy heavy, and I didn't expect it to be as well written. Now, this isn't like the best work of art ever. It's written well. I also categorize it when I'm comparing it to maybe other, again, it's not a fantasy only, and it's not just a romance. It's somewhere in between. I feel like the blending of the world and the blending of making it romance heavy, but also balancing the fantasy aspect of it, I really enjoyed. I think the world was super fun. I loved the fighting, and I loved the enemies to lovers, and I loved learning about how their magic works, and the magic kind of gave me a little bit of The Serpent and the Dove, the trilogy they have out, where again, if you read it, you'll know about the witches and how the witches work. It's really fun to see the world, and I do wish that I could follow these characters for a little bit more, but I also feel like they completed it perfectly in 2 books where you got to know a lot about the 2 characters, you got a lot about the magic, the world, you felt like the stakes were high enough, and so that was my biggest pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. I typically read, like, if I read the first book in a fantasy series, maybe the next month I'll continue it on. If you followed my wrap-ups, you would see that. But I enjoyed Crimson Moth, the Heartless Hunter book, so much. I think I read them both in a week. Like, both books, like, back to back. There was no break. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to follow more. I was so intrigued and so impressed. And so that was a huge surprise for me. So for authors that are new to you, debut, or otherwise, I would put Kristen Cicerelli. Speaking of Heartless Hunter, this is the first book series that I've read by them, and I was really impressed, as I said. So I would add her. I would add, let's see, I feel like I read a lot of repeat authors this year, and so I don't really have that many authors that, Liz Moore, The God of the Woods. I enjoyed her writing and her storytelling. I would definitely read a lot more by her. I don't know how to pronounce her name, and if I butcher, I'm so sorry. Farida Abike Imide. She wrote Ace of Spades. It was kind of a YA thriller, and I found it to be so good. I don't know if they've written other books, but I definitely would read so many more things. That was excellent. Lane Fargo, who wrote The Favorites, 100% would definitely read more of that. I love that dramatized fiction, 100%. It's like that book that you just want to eat on up, and it's so great. Rachel Gillig, well, it was my first time reading anything by her, and she was excellent. But I knew that that was going to be good, and that's why it wasn't in the biggest surprise, just so you guys know. I think that's it. Those are the authors that I would for sure put on there that I'm like so shocked that it was so great. And of course, Kennedy Ryan, actually. I had not read anything before I let go, and she was great. And again, she's another author that I expected to be great. It just took me a while to like read anything by her. And of Alison Espach, The Wedding People. A lot of great authors. I'm always discovering like new authors that their writing is just so great. And to add to my list of like those insta-buy, insta-read authors is my favorite thing ever. Books that made you cry. What books made me cry really badly? I don't cry that often from books, so like it's not the biggest thing for me. I feel like I'm more like a no, you know, like I just get really frustrated and upset. But I don't think I cried with any books this year so far, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, I don't think I cried with any books this year. I would say the last book to make me cry was Magnolia Park's Long Way Home, and that was in December, and I was sobbing like a baby for the last 20 or 30 pages. I was so upset and hurt. So sorry, there was nothing for this year, but maybe I will get a book to make me cry. You know, I have a lot of books on my list. Maybe something will hit me. Books that made you happy: Beg, Borrow, or Steal. Sarah Adams, First Time Caller, B.K. Borson, for sure. They're such feel-good, heartwarming books. They make you feel so warm inside. For Beg, Borrow, or Steal, it was so nice to see the characters of that world again. You've been following them already. This would be the third book, and so it's so fun to know this small town so intimately and the side characters so well. It's always a pleasant surprise when they pop up in a chapter, you know. First Time Caller was just heartwarming. I loved all of the characters and the side characters, and I'm really excited that she's coming out with a new one, I think next winter, because I get to see everybody again. Hopefully they make an appearance. It's the same thing, but B.K. Borson, as I said before, she's just a very heartwarming, like that corny cuteness. Like she writes that writing so well to me, and so I'm very excited for that one. The most beautiful book you bought? Ooh, that's a fun question. I have bought a lot of really fun editions. This Poppy War right here is so beautiful to me, with these beautiful like flame edges. I love that. Let's go through it. I'll be right back, and I'm going to grab some stuff to show you because that is so fun for me. The three big books was the Poppy War. I think that was like such a beautiful edition. I think One Golden Summer. Whoever paints Carly Fortune's books, I think it's real art. It's so stunning. The way that the water draw, like the paint drips in this art is so nice. The wrap is just so beautiful. I think all of her books are so stunning, but I think this one may be my favorite. One Golden Summer. And then, of course, the UK edition of Atmosphere. I think this is so beautiful with like, it's so nice. I love these three books. I think are just so beautiful. I love it. Books you need to read by the end of the year, might have to read for sure, is going to be, what is something I have to read by the end of the year? Oh, that's so hard. I think the Beartown trilogy is a series I have to read. I know it's sad, and I keep putting it off because it's sad, not because I don't think it's going to be good, and not because I don't think I'm not going to like it, but I have to read it. I have to read that trilogy. One of the books are going to be on my July TBR, and I know technically it's not really the time to read it, but it came out of the jar. I'm gonna honor it, and that's gonna be it. My 5-star reads. We did go over this when I was talking about the best book in 2025 because those are the books that I would choose like to be my favorite. It's Fun for the Whole Family by Jennifer E. Smith. Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. 2. The Favorites by Lane Fargo. 3. Two Twisted Crowns I put at 5 stars, so 4. One Dark Window. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. And that's it. Those are my 5-star reads. And it's kind of interesting because some of these, looking at the rating now, I think I would like shift some things higher or lower because they've just sat with me much longer than I expected them to. But according to what I have on Fable, those are my only 5-star reads for the year. So it wasn't that many of them. And I think that's it. That's my mid-year wrap up. Should I talk about a little bit my 25 and 2025 and see how I'm doing? I think I'm going to do that really quickly. Let's go through it and talk about which books I've read and which ones I have not read because I feel like I haven't done that well. I really haven't. I have been reading a lot of books, but none of those, I don't think. Let me see. I have my book journal over here. Right next to me right here. So let's go through them really quickly. We're just gonna breeze through this because this video is already long enough, even though some of this I feel like is just me looking through my list of books, and that's fine. Okay, we had Manacled. I have not read it. The Wedding People, I've read. Before the Coffee Gets Cold, I read it. Tomorrow Times 3, I have not. The Night Circus, I have not. Project Hail Mary, I've not. Emily Wilde's Map of Encyclopedia of Fairies, I've read. Before I Let Go, I've read. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, no. Dune Messiah, no. Golden Sun, yes. Powerless, no. Daisy Hates in the Great Undoing, no. As Long as the Lemon Tree Grows, no. The Do-Over, yes. Flawless, no. Inferno, I have not. Mistborn, no. China Rich Girlfriend, no. Gone Girl, no. One True Loves, no. If We Were Villains, no. I read Clap When You Land, Kingdom of the Wicked, and The Two Twisted Crowns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've read 9 books out of 25. I am not doing that great, but it's okay. I will get back to these eventually. I will remember that these exist eventually. It will probably be Q4 and I'll try to binge all of these and that's gonna be a whole issue. But that's it for me. This was long, this was fun, and it's always so hard. I'm so bad at choosing favorites and choosing books that fit a prompt. Like, I'm not very good at just choosing one. I always choose multiple because there's so many different books in different genres that also deserve a fanfare and the cheer and all that stuff. But that's it for me today, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.